Hi, Eva Nichols here. Today I'm going to show you how to do a watercolor with a Joshua tree scene inspired by a trip I took a little while ago. And I have a tracing on my website that you can use. And first we're going to start with tracing the drawing onto our watercolor paper, and then we're going to do some masking. So masking fluid is called many different things. It's called masking fluid, it's called drawing gum, it's called frisket, and a couple of other terms that I can't remember right off the top of my head. I happen to like this particular kind the best because it does have a little color. It has kind of like a bluish gray color. Because I like to see where it's at, so you can see. And I also like it because this is fairly thin, so I feel I can get it on more precisely.
Does it get thick after a while?
It can get thick after a while, and the biggest mistake that people do is they shake the bottle. You're not.
I just shook it.
Yes, that's I saw that. That's why I said, that's why I want to talk about it. Don't shake your masking fluid, because when you shake it, you introduce air bubbles, and air is exactly what makes it dry and harden. So what you'll find then is you're building up a little ball of gunk inside your bottle, and so half of it is, you can toss it. So don't shake it.
Can you thin it out if it gets too thick?
You can thin it out with water if it gets too thick. And basically, if you make sure that you always screw the lid back on again, don't let it stand around for hours, without the lid on. It's going to last you quite a long time. And you want to keep it away from heat. And when you apply it, you only want to apply it onto dry paper. Never apply it onto damp paper. Your paper has to be completely dry, because while the paper is still damp, the fibers are still open. And as the paper continues to dry, it closes up and it grabs the masking fluid, and you'll never be able to get it out again. And the whole idea with masking fluid is not that it stays on the paper. It's just to protect an area that we want to keep light. A lot of times if we put it on the white paper, it's because we want to keep our whites, or, and we want to be able to paint around. Like here, we have all these little spikes of foliage, needles, whatever, I don't know what they're called, I want to have some of them light, so I just mask out the whole bundle of them, and that way I can paint the sky and the background and not have to worry about it and try and paint around, that wouldn't really be possible. And you can also put masking fluid on a previously painted area. Say you painted something, and then you're going to build up some darks, but there's an area that you're going to leave light, or there's, a shape in there, or a figure or something that you want to leave light. You can also put masking fluid on there and then keep painting on your painting, and that'll save that whatever color you had on.
Makes sense.
So it's just very practical. So here, since these are kind of fine little things, I'm probably going to go with this one. And normally, if I was going to use it for quite a while, a big area, I would take some of my masking fluid, pour it out in a little cup, and then put the lid back on my container and put it away so that I don't expose it to air too much. But here, it's just a quick little one, so I'm not going to bother with that. And so I'm just going to mask out, as if I was already painting these little foliage parts, all the places where they go. And you do want to take a little care that you do a nice job, because if you do it too sloppy, remember you're stuck with that white area. I mean, it's not like we're going to leave it white, but it does pay off to be a little careful when you do the masking. So that's your first job, is to do this. Go put some little spike on. I'm not going to bother doing it on here, because that's going to be showing up more like silhouettes against the sky. I'm just going to do it here and make sure they're not too perfect. Don't make them little stars and stuff like that. Irregular. And you can take a look at, the one I did already. And then later, once we've painted the whole background, we're going to roll off the masking. So now I'm just going to take a big old brush. Doesn't matter which kind. I am not a big fan of fiddling around with small little brushes for big areas. Sky is almost half my painting, so, you know, a little tiny brush will not do it. So I'm going to get clean water and see how I go on here. See if I don't do that. Can you see all those droplets? I can't control those. Take them off, and then I can go on. And now my masking is completely dry. I would not dream of painting over wet masking fluid. What would happen is it would, you know, get into my brush, and I would smear it around, and I would have one big mess plus a ruined brush. That's not good. So I take a lot of water, and if you have 140-pound paper, I'm painting on 300 pounds, so it's a little bit thicker. You might want to also spray a little bit on the back, and I might even do that.
On the back of the paper?
At the back of the paper, you know, you have yours taped down, so you can't do that.
Yeah.
But that's fine.
Untape it.
No, and that's fine.
What does that do?
It makes it, if it buckles, it makes it lay flat again. And that's also, I think, why
When
people...
you're all done, too, you could do that, huh?
Absolutely, and you can iron it.
Oh.
Yeah. Iron it. I often do that because, you know, they get a little buggly.
You want to steam iron it.
You can totally steam them, as long as you do it on the back side.
Sure.
So I'm taking my time applying the water because that's very important. And I have to give it a little time to sink into the paper because I want my sky to be nice and smooth and the colors to gradually run into each other and dissipate down to the very, very light by the top of the hills. And now I'm going to lift it up. And can you see? I can already see some spots I missed. I missed this spot, and I missed this whole area.
So
and
how
here,
different is it with that 300 paper?
it's
Is it gonna
just
be
thicker.
It's
just-
really thick, isn't it?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's a lot thicker. So it's going to soak up a little bit more water. And then it doesn't buckle as much. But it's also more than twice as expensive. So I certainly don't expect you guys to want to necessarily do that. And so 140 will work just fine. And so you just spray it a little bit on the back side. And that way it also will keep it wet longer because now it also gets water from the back side. And it's all about keeping that moisture in the paper so you have time to paint your sky. All right, so that's that. I'm pretty happy with it. See how shiny it is? And there was another little dry spot there. Why don't I want those dry spots? Because the pigment's going to run around, and I'm going to dip this into the cobalt blue. And let's see, where did I have my light come from? That side, okay. So, what did I say? I don't want
So is the light coming from
my light is coming
the left?
From this.
from this side. So then
You want it darker on
I want it darker on the opposite side.
And
The
you go
sky will,
at an angle.
I like to go on an angle. You don't have to, but I like to do that because I feel it's a little bit more of a dynamic direction.
So you're adding the Antwerp in from the dark side?
Yeah, from the sun's coming from here, so I'm keeping this side where the sun is coming from. I try to keep that a little bit lighter because that's how the sky is. And so I rinsed out my brush, and now can you see it's very, very wet? And it's running nicely. That's exactly what I want. So I'm rinsing out my brush and dabbing it on my water control station. I don't want a dripping wet brush because it's going to be drying on me pretty soon. So I might just want to guide it down a little bit towards the edge here. And you can see I didn't go all the way down to my pencil line with the water because it does seep a little bit, and I try to keep that kind of diagonal. And then now I'm gonna see, this is what I do, a lot of this. I have gravity help me do me a favor and move the pigment around. I'm thinking I kind of like this. This is fine for me. And dab that off. I can see there's a little bit of a white spot there, not that it matters too much. And it's gonna still move while I'm not looking. It's still gonna be moving a little bit. Can you see here? I have where the pigment stopped. It's barely there, But can you see that? Those are little, I call them ghost lines. I don't like ghost lines. That's because I didn't paint all the way down to the pencil line because the water's going to creep by. So now I have just a damp brush, barely damp. And I'm barely touching, and I'm just kind of tickling those little lines all the way down because
You want it to go to the line.
yes, and I don't want, what I don't want is I don't want a hard line in the middle of my sky or right here at the edges. I want to get rid of that. I'm kind of picky with those kinds of things. So, but if my brush was wet and I would deposit, I would get a big bloom. You don't want that.
So the brush wasn't wet at all.
It was damp,
Damp.
just damp, and I'm barely touching, but that took care of it, I think. There's a little bit here. Hey! There, we just got started with this. All right, I am good with this, and now it has to dry. So your masking is probably dry now, so you can go and paint your sky. And I'm gonna pop mine up like this because I wouldn't mind if the pigment traveled down this way a little bit. So it's dry enough. Can feel it's still a little bit of moisture in there. You know, you can feel that with the back of your hand, or you can also feel it on the back side if it's quite damp. But it's good enough. It's still a little cool to the touch, but it's fine. It's fine. And then, just can't resist it. I might go in and just see if I can get a little bit more of those lines off. Again, this is just my own personal little obsession. You certainly don't have to adopt it. There. Just not crazy about all those lines. There we go. And there we go. Okay, so the next color that I'm going to use is I am going to take some burnt sienna. I have my cobalt blue there already. So I'm going to take a little bit of burnt sienna, and I know I'm going to use it later also. So I'm just going to take it. I'm going to spray my color a little bit more. Burnt sienna, and if you don't have burnt sienna, you can certainly make your own. Burnt sienna is just red and, this is 3 primary colors. It's red and yellow mixed together to make an orange. And then you take a little bit of blue, cobalt blue or French ultramarine blue, and add it to it until it kind of turns into a burnt sienna. So burnt sienna is I have it on my palette because it's a convenience color. Anytime you have to mix 3 colors together and try to hit a particular tone, let me tell you, there's going to be a lot of mixing before you get what you're after. So it's just kind of easy to be able to just take it out of here. And I use it so much. The combination of burnt sienna together with cobalt blue and French ultramarine blue, it's my colors for my tree trunks, my rocks, and, you know, a lot of other things, because it creates gray blues
Are you taping?
and browns. Pardon me?
Are you taping?
I am taping. Yes, thank you. And now I have 2 reminders. That's wonderful because we know I know it's I need it. I need it because it's so annoying when I come home and then I find, like with the ballerina, well, I taped it here in your class, the first part, because I taped the whole thing at home except I'd forgotten to hit the tape button at the introduction. So, but it's up and running and you can watch it on YouTube. All right, so that was burnt sienna. I have my good puddle of cobalt blue here. Might even put a little bit more in. And I'm just debating whether I could need, and if I don't need it now, I need it later, some French ultramarine blue. It's pretty similar to cobalt blue, except it's much darker. So I don't think, since this is my first mountain range, it's quite far away. I don't want it too dark because I want to, get that atmospheric perspective we talked about earlier. So here is, so now I'm going to can you see? That was the burnt sienna that I took, and with some cobalt. Can you see how that's gray now? And depending on how much blue I put in, it becomes blue-gray, or how much burnt sienna we have in it, it becomes kind of more like a brown, more standard brown. So these are kind of like the colors I'm after. I like to have them not all mixed to one color. And I actually now used up so much of my cobalt blue, I might put a little bit more in there. Just to have it available. Okie dokie. So now I'm going to do the same method. And look at my water. Your dirty water is always a good indication. You can always check your dirty water, see what's happening there, because it tells you the story of how the colors are getting along and stuff like that. Okie dokie. So I'm just going to use this brush. It's big enough and also small enough. I'm going to put a little bit of water inside. I had a little too much water on. A little bit of water inside here, this faraway mountain range. And again, I'm not going to worry about those little trees or anything like that. Let's see. Yeah, that's good enough. So it's this whole thing. And the reason I put water in is because, I want the colors to move and flow. And again, I'm going to pay absolutely no attention to that trunk there. Because it's going to be a lot darker, so I don't have to worry about it.
So you paint right over the trunk?
Yes. I don't want to try and paint around it because then it's going to be some weird brush marks that I don't want. All right, so can you see I put water inside there? But not all the way down to the lines or anything. All right, so now I'm going to load this brush with this blue-gray that I created. Dab, dab. And then I'm going to start from the bottom because it's darkest down here at the bottom. Because that's, the light comes from here, so it's going to hit the tops before it hits the bottoms, right? So, and I don't want it too dark, so I'm feeling I might want to get a little bit more water in there. And can you see how it kind of flows out into the water I put down? So I'm good on that. So right now I'm just trying to find the top of that other mountain range. And here we are. And now I want to vary it a little bit, so otherwise it gets too boring. So I just dipped into another area of my puddle, so it got a little bit warmer, but I don't want to go too warm because then I lose the whole idea that this is distant. So a little bit more water in. Dab, dab, dab. And I'm going to go in right away and go up here. I don't want to get any hard lines here. So I want to make sure I get to it before it dries on me, so it'll flow together. Nice. There we are. I could put a little bit of warmth in here because it's kind of, that was too much. No need to panic just yet. There. And just blew it down a little bit. And then let's get to here. So I got to be, a little speedy here because I don't want it to dry. I do not want to see any brush strokes inside here. That's my goal, not to see any brush strokes inside here. Just all nice and flowy. And go up here. That's more blue than I want. Then I just step into more brownish area. There's that. Then here I want it a little bit lighter, so I took some of the pigment off. Just want to have a little variety. If I can get some color variety in already at this stage, then I can declare it done, this mountain range. Whereas if I have all sorts of things that needs to be fixed, I'll have to go in and doctor with it again, and I don't really want to do that.
So you paint over the tree trunk?
Yeah, I don't worry about the tree trunk. It's going to be a lot darker, so there's no
I
need.
see. Okay.
No need to worry about it too much. Too dark. If it's too dark, right away get some more water in your brush.
So cobalt
And burnt sienna, that's all it is. But you can see I get a lot of different grays here because of the way I kind of I didn't just mix it together too much. And then here, out here, a little bit more water, a little bit more warm here. A little bit warmer here. And get to here, here, and here. Okay, I didn't get any brush strokes inside, so I'm happy with that. And that's going to be my distant mountain range. And as you can see, it's probably not exactly like the first one I did, but it never is. And see how I'm trying to get it, so I was pretty successful. I got it, see how I tried to get it a little darker on some of these sides because the light's coming from here, so I'm thinking that side of those little outcroppings will be a little bit lighter. So, and I think I can still, this is where, see, this is the dangerous thing because it's beginning to dry here. So this is exactly where if I misjudge it, I have too much water and pigment on here, and then I go in on this pigment that's drying, that's where you can get blooms. I think I managed to do it right. Just felt like a little, oops, darkness. And now, if I wanted, there's no need to, really. There, I like that. If I like it, I leave it. If I don't like it, I try to fix it. But I think there's not too much fixing going on here. I'm feeling this one could be a little darker. This, I am operating on kind of sort of dangerous territory. I'm just kind of walking the fine line of, you know, risking blooms, but I thought I kind of judged it right. I think that I should just leave it alone. And see, because I have a little bit of color variance, it's far away. Do I want a lot of detail? No, I don't. This is enough.
Yeah. Okay.
So, burnt sienna, cobalt blue, voila. And don't mix it all together. This way you get these different, little bit different colors. A little bit warmer, a little bit cooler, a little bit lighter, a little bit darker, but not a whole lot. I did not follow my drawing very precisely. Doesn't matter. Since it's my landscape, I can do what I like, right? So I am going to put a little bit of water in, and again, you can see I'm not paying any attention to those two little Joshua trees there. I'm not going to pay any attention to my tree there. And I'm going to go down here a little bit, make it a little bit more interesting. So I put a little bit of water in again. Can you kind of see? And you can see I don't go all the way up to the lines or anything because, again, water travels, so I don't want it to travel too far. And then just going to start with a very watery mix here. Keep it a little bit warmer.
You're using the same brush.
Same, yeah, it's number, what is this? This is number 12. Close. I think I used this one last, but it doesn't matter.
No.
10, 12. And see my little pit stop on the... And now what I'm going to do here with this kind of gray is I'm just going to find out where my top is, since I did not really do a good job on putting it in. So I'm just going to go like this. And then pick it up here. This is basically just so, since my drawing is non-existent, I'm just trying to find out where my mountain range is. Kind of like that. All right, I'm not even going to bother rinsing out my brush because I still want to have this toned down a little bit. And then dab, dab, and I'm going to pick it up and get it lighter and warmer up here at the top and make sure that it mixes nicely, which it does. And can you see I put a little bit of red and a little bit of yellow out also, so I might just on the sunny side, yeah, a little bit of the transparent yellow, a little bit of the Quinacrodone red, just to brighten up these edges that are closer to the light, just a little bit. Of course, I still have to, I can't go full strength because then what am I going to do down here, right? You got to keep that in mind. And then hopefully I can catch this before it dries on me too bad. So let's see. It's a little bit brighter than I wanted, but don't panic. If it gets too bright, what do we have to do here? Just put a little bit of the blue in. Let's try it. A bit of the blue in here, the bottom, and voila, right away, right? That's complementary colors for you. They neutralize each other, so. And I don't want any of those little white sparkles, so I'm going to take care of those too. A bit darker here, maybe in this one. So I want it a little bit darker than the range in front. or in behind. There. And burnt sienna, some of the cobalt blue, and darken it up a little bit here. Gotta work fast because I didn't put that much water in. And I really would prefer not to have any brush strokes showing. You know, I don't want it to look like it's a striped mountain. And so here, tone it down a little bit. Burnt sienna, yeah, I'm mainly using burnt sienna. And then go down here.
With that red and yellow, that stuff over there you did.
Yeah, I put a little bit of that in, not too much. Okay, here we are. And now I gotta make it a little bit more interesting. Dab, dab. And I'm gonna darken some places down here. Might go in now and borrow a little bit of the French Ultramarine blue. Of course, that's gonna go a little darker. Can you see that? Goes a little darker right away. Darkness there. I don't want it all the same color everywhere. That gets really tedious and boring. There, now we're talking. A little bit of darkness here and there on this, maybe on this one. There. And then this is outlining that other hill. So I still have time to kind of unify it a little bit. Here, a little bit here. Just trying to get rid of these white sparkles there. Sometimes these white sparkles are great, but they're not in here. They would not. They're not in a proper spot. And let's see. Can you see how I'm dragging up a little bit just to get a little bit of a different direction on it? Get a little movement in the landscape. Rinse it out. And dab, dab. Feel my, often if it's a really critical, sometimes I'll just feel my brush to make sure that I don't have too much water in, because I want it to go in while I can, just kind of get rid of these little guys. There. And the same here. All right, good enough. Can you see how it comes forward now? Because I gave it more warmth and a little bit more oomph.
Okay, so try that.
Yeah, try that. Try that on for size.